Oh, hello everyone. It's Susie here, Crypto Granny. Today is the 25th of April, 2023, and the time in Europe is 17:40 p.m. An important day, certainly for Australians and New Zealanders. It's Anzac Day, so I just want to make a note to that. It's a National Day of Remembrance in Australia and New Zealand that broadly commemorates the Australian New Zealand soldiers who all served in wars and conflicts and peacekeeping and that sort of thing. And certainly my brother and my nephew will be it would have been in the march early this morning. It's really early in the morning. I've only been once in my life. It's too early for me. But they were in the armed forces. So I hope they're having a great day. Miss them terribly. And certainly, wish I was there. But anyway, not to worry. We've got a lot to talk about today in terms of crypto markets, particularly a lot of global macro factors that are affecting cryptocurrency markets. So let's look at just the stats for the cryptocurrency markets in terms of live coin watch, and then we'll go through all the information. I've got a question from one of my clients as well, which is a very good question in relation to Argentina and also in relation to some of the South American companies that are being bailed out by the International Monetary Fund, which is very much dominated by the US, and obviously the US is concerned about all its cryptocurrency everywhere else in the world, as well as the US market. And that's putting a lot of pressure on the cryptocurrency market at the moment. So let's have a look at that. Live Coin Watch, according to Live Coin Watch, market cap is 1.168 trill. Volume's low at 29.397. Liquidity is 4.557. It's reasonable, it being 4.5563 billion, and Bitcoin dominance is 45.44%. And simply, it's staying up there because there is no Bitcoin flows or Bitcoin supply on the exchanges. So it's really important, people. Bitcoin currently is at 27.44.1, Ethereum 18.10. I don't like Ethereum. I think it's going to completely underperform Bitcoin in my mind going forward. US Tether 1, Binance 336. It's holding up very well, Binance, since its buyback last week of 2 million units. USDC 1, XRP 0.4588. ADA 37. OP has been a great performer at 45.77. Dodge 0.078, and Matic just under $1.95. So get on with the news. There's some big picture flows here that we need to talk about. Certainly people are worried about bank runs and the inflation macro themes continue. Lending and certainly pulled back in terms of the economy in the US, but everywhere else as well. It's getting harder to borrow money from the banks. Certainly rate rises are a theme, simply because the next US Fed Open Markets Committee is on the 2nd and 3rd of May, and people believe they will rate hike again 25 basis points. I feel if they rate hike again, it's going to be the nail in the coffin. Figures in the US are already coming off very, very quickly. The market looks terrible. The US economy looks very bad to me. And I think if they rate hike again, it's going to be literally the nail in the coffin for the consumer that cannot afford mortgages, okay? The mortgages, the 30-year mortgage rate at the moment, the US is around 6.58. It got to a high of over 7%, and that's just a killer for anyone that's paying a mortgage, because people's mortgage repayments have literally tripled in a year, okay? Their monthly mortgage repayments, which is not good. We do have some figures out this week, US GDP particularly, which is a good one to watch. Retail sales, the red book is always another good one that we need to watch in terms of US consumer demand for, spending money, clearly. And if they're not spending money in the US, they're saving it because they're worried, okay? Another thing is the quarterly figures for the First Republic Bank are due on Monday. There's a worry that this bank is going to be, going down the gurgle. It was hit hard during the other banks that went down, the 3 large banks in the US, particularly Silicon Bank, Silicon Bank, I always forget these names, Signature Bank, and another one. But, and also Credit Suisse looks pretty bad as well at the moment. That was bailed out by the UBS in Switzerland. So, and also there's a few other indicators in terms of wage prices increases. The expectation is the Fed will raise rates, taking cash to 5%. The US dollar, in my mind, is going to sell down. I really believe that. There's a lot of information out there that there's been a decoupling from the US dollar, people getting out of US dollar and buying other currencies. And I've told all my clients to stay into euro not US dollar. The US dollar looks terrible to me. Also, a lot of companies, countries in the world, the BRICS particularly, are moving out of US dollars, okay? So it's going to be very, very interesting. We've seen gold do very well, not surprising. And people are starting to sell US dollars to go into other European currencies. And I think that's a very smart move, okay? Very smart move. Also, the big theme is the SEC and their over regulatory enforcement, which is putting a bit of a damper on the crypto market. That's to say the least, okay? And also, there's other things that Grayscale are waiting for in terms of their exchange traded fund product, right? Which the SEC has ruled against many, many times. But to answer your question, Anna, about the IMF and Argentina, yes, you're right. It's real. The International Monetary Fund mainly has a lot of members sitting on their board, but the US really, really dictates that policy of the International Monetary Fund. They don't want to bail out Argentina if it's going into crypto, right? And that's political as well. If you go into crypto, you're getting out of currency, fiat currency. Argentina is scheduled to get a big repayment from the International Monetary Fund, a $45 billion payout, because the economy is an absolute collapse. Plus, the peso has hit an all-time low against the US dollar, right? The thing is, the IMF won't give that money, being dictated by the US strategic policy, simply because they don't want them in cryptocurrency. And we know the US's stance on cryptocurrency, okay? They're against it, and everyone else is thinking about you moving out of the US, including Coinbase, Ripple, and many, many others. And we've seen a flight out of the US in terms of the exchanges and corporates, like Nexo, for example. We've seen it with Deribit. We've seen it with a lot. We've seen it with Polynex, Huobi, BitGet, Bittrex as well. Many other exchanges are moving out of the US because the US is just so over the top with this cryptocurrency stance. And also Gary Gensler, we've talked about him as well, the chairman of the SEC. Many people want him to lose his job because they don't find him practical enough, and he's just an academic, and I believe he should go. He's not the right guy for the job in the US as the chairman of the SEC. So this scheduled payment from the International Monetary Fund, I mean, of course, they want to, dictate the terms for Argentina to get this money. Now, Argentina, the economy is in complete collapse with massive high inflation, massive mounting debt, massive budget deficits, and the people of that country are barely living. It's very, very bad, okay? So clearly, the International Monetary Fund wants to put pressure on Argentina not to go into cryptocurrency. So we'll have to see how that goes. But, again, really, Argentina will just have to suck it and save it, because they need the money desperately from the International Monetary Fund, because they're absolutely broke, okay? Completely broke. The IMF obviously fears crypto adoption because they believe that it will hamper financial stability. I don't believe that, but it's a political thing in terms of fiat currencies. If they adopt crypto, Argentina clearly, they're getting out of the US dollar, and we're seeing a decoupling of the US dollar. A lot of people are actually getting out of the US dollar. Countries including China, which are now, trading more their renminbi with Russia, and they're asking their people to buy the digital Chinese yuan. But also Russia set up another settlement process, so they don't have to go through SWIFT, which is US settlement system, and they're dealing in their own currency, Russia as well, the ruble, right? So there's a lot going on here, absolutely. We also, as I said, the Argentina peso has plunged 10%. It's a shocker. It's just really bad over there. Venezuela and Russia announced that they were working to develop an alternative SWIFT system so that the Russian bank can basically deal with anyone they like and avoid the US sanctions, which close their bank accounts in US, right? Clearly, a lot of the Russians are now talking to Latin America and asking them to use this system to avoid the US, which is very, very interesting indeed. I think this is massive, actually, and it's something we can't ignore. The Russians have their own settlement system, and they will avoid just trading with the US at all times, and try to get other South American companies to trade on their settlement system, which is going to be very interesting. It's very political. There's a Cold War going on, and it's very clear what the Russians are trying to do. And as I said, China, there's another story later about China. dealing in their own digital yuan in China, which is really, really interesting. This payment system of Russia's has no restrictions, and digital currencies are completely unrestricted as well. It's pretty smart of the Russians, I've got to say, for launching this new payment system with no restrictions and digital currency being used across borders. And honestly, it's a great story for the Russians, but not a great story for America, that again is completely behind the 8 ball, completely behind the curve as such in terms of digital currency assets and this sort of thing. So this payments story looks like it's going to be launched very, very soon with digital currencies for international payments. It is an alternative to SWIFT, and SWIFT aren't going to like this as well. SWIFT, 12,000 banks in the world use SWIFT, and you'd have 2 large payment systems literally competing against each other. But if the Russian payment system allows for digital currencies, I can tell you the Russian one's probably going to win, that's for sure. And the US is going to lose a lot of companies and a lot of people and all sorts of things. There'll be a talent drain from the US, okay? So this is huge. The Russians have been working on this payment system as an alternative to SWIFT for many, many years, and they're already using it with Russia, with China, I should say, one of their biggest allies, okay? It is a push for Russian de-dollarization, okay? And we're seeing that everywhere in the world, right? There was an article by Ron Paul on the future of the US dollar. The world is clearly de-dollarizing, and we've seen that by how much US dollars countries are holding. They're holding less and less. There is selling of US dollar out there via Russia and China, and they're buying gold and cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, okay? Ron Paul, the former US president and former US Congress, stated that the geopolitical risks are causing nations to start ditching the US dollar, and it's absolutely correct. I've seen that as well. There's a complete debasement of the US dollar, and I really, for me, for my own trading, I want to buy a US dollar put because I really believe the US dollar is going to come down way below 135, probably to the yen, probably down to 100, okay? Mr. Ron Paul said this is happening at a rapid pace. I agree with him. It is getting faster and faster, and US dollar reserves, coming onto the market. People are selling them, and he said it's because of America's endless wars, sanctions, wokeism, nihilism, and unconstitutional abuses. Wow, that's a very, very strong statement by Ron Paul, the former US president candidate and a former US congressman. He said it's already started. More and more, we have a series of countries that are transacting their international accounts in their own currencies and ignoring it. Of course, we're seeing that. They're potentially buying gold as well. Now, the thing is, Russia and China, want to have their currencies, as some of the prime currencies that are traded in the world. Now, generally the US dollar is seen as safe haven, but again, with the influence of China and Russia, one of the 2 largest, well, China particularly, one of the largest countries in the world. India now has more population than China, but their influence is massive, right? And when we talk about the BRICS economies, we're talking about Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, okay? And we're seeing it right across the board. There is a divestment out of the US dollar, and people are purchasing gold. And that's why gold is trading above $2,000, okay? An ounce or 31 grams. This is the big story, people. We can't ignore this. And honestly, also the Russians have spoken about, so the Chinese, and so have other South American countries, as well as Africa. Zimbabwe has spoken about releasing digital currencies that are backed by gold or other commodities, including rare or earth. And this is huge. This is why gold and even silver are going up at the moment. So, I believe gold, there was someone that came out ages ago and said gold could get to $8,000 an ounce within 2 to 3 years. And I believe that will happen, okay? The Russians are buying gold, so are the Chinese in a big way, and so does India. Also, India is following the BRIC de-dollarization, says the central bank governor. They came out and said they're shifting away from the US dollar in terms of settlements and financial transactions, right? This is really political, what's happening here, okay? Very, very political. A lot of countries don't like the US because of, obviously their warmongering. They've been in other countries, created a lot of disturbance and then moved out. But also, obviously everything they spend is on warmongering, and it's not a great story. So even the Indonesia, which is a huge country near Australia, it's probably got a population of 250 million, are going into other countries rather than US dollars, okay? And this is big because even the governor of Indonesia has said, we're following a BRICS de-dollarization lead, huge. This all can only be good for crypto though, people, because every time you buy crypto, you sell the US dollar, right? Or the US tether. And that's more where my clients and myself have been doing exactly. But I also saying to my clients, don't sit in US dollars, sit in euro. Euro will perform much better than US dollars. Also, euro will perform much better because now of the new MiCA rules, markets and crypto assets and digital assets, the European regulation is much more pro crypto assets than the US. In the US, it's going to be a disaster, really, if they don't change their policy and if they don't change it fast, okay? US continues, as people say, the US continues to weaponize the dollar. Countries are seeking an alternative and creating their own digital currencies and potentially backing them with, with gold. Now, these, and the thing is also the US will be unable to, to have sanctions against other countries because the US dollar, position as a safe haven currency is changing, and this is going to be dramatic. Now, also a big story from this fellow, Chamath Palihapitiya, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Crypto is dead in America. I agree with him. It's because of the SEC. They are killing everyone, right? Killing everyone, right? This guy's a tech billionaire. He's been bullish Bitcoin for many, many years, but he's very concerned with what is happening in the US, not surprisingly so, because everyone is now starting to sue the SEC, including Coinbase. He said on his podcast, crypto is dead. Obviously the regulatory environment in the US is a shocker. You don't know who to report to, who's after him after. There's so many regulatory environments and departments in the US. And it's at the state level as well as the federal level. It's a shocker. So people are moving out of the US. They're sick of it with the collapses of these banks. The US authorities have no idea. They're still raising rates, as well as this regulatory, environment that's over the top with SEC Chairman Gensler. And honestly, his appearance in Congress was a shocker, I think. I mean, the guy, honestly, is just not the right person, right? We've seen, exchanges moving out of the US, as I said. Now Coinbase is talking about it. Kraken's moving out. Bittrex, BitGet, Nexo, all of them moving out. Also, Ripple could move out. Now, Brian Armstrong recently said that the company could relocate from the US because of the regulatory stance, right? And Bittrex wound down their operations in the US, even though they've been charged, with securities fraud and violation by the SEC. On Monday, Coinbase sued the SEC with a complaint against the agency relating to a rulemaking petition that they exchanged filed in 2022, which was asking about more information about the clarity of US regulation with cryptocurrency. It's a shocker, right? Coinbase have said they're going to get out because seriously, you can't deal with these arrogant people like Gensler, that don't want any discussion, and people don't even know what the regulatory environment is, right? So Coinbase has filed a lawsuit against the SEC. Coinbase wants the agency to provide a yes or no to Coinbase request for the commission to draft and approve a digital asset specific rule, okay? And while that's going on, Kathy Wood, ARK's investment fund, is purchasing more Coinbase. And you're going to see, I believe you'll see more suits against the SEC. They're completely incompetent as far as I'm concerned, right? The SEC never came back to them with digital asset specific rules. And so, again, they're suing them and saying, the SEC just says no, whatever, but they're not telling Coinbase what to do. There was so much dialogue with Coinbase and the SEC, just like there was Nexo. Nexo just threw up their hands, paid the fine of 50 million, 25 to a state government and 25 to the federal government, and just said, this is too hard, we're getting out of here. We're going to go to Europe, and that's fair enough, right? This legal battle could go on for some time, and they're just, pretty fed up, I think. And the thing is, you're going to probably have Ripple relocate as well, okay? It's very important, you know, and people are just fed up with the SEC. I mean, they're spending so much on compliance on a daily basis, they can't even run their own business, okay? You know, Coinbase said the SEC's response is just pathetic. You know, they're not making it clear to anyone. You know, even they met with Congress, and, you know, now, you know, there's a big battle between the crypto industry and the SEC, and rightly so, because, you know, there is no clear rule book, as Brian Armstrong, the CEO from Coinbase, said. You know, we haven't got a clue, and the SEC are like changing their minds all the time, i.e., you know, is that from a security or is it not? And they don't even talk about technology, right? So, you know, again, there's a story here about Ripple. Will they leave the US? I think they will, you know, for sure. The jurisdiction is shocking. You know, it's causing everyone money and time, and it's just an ongoing legal battle. And these authorities in the SEC and, you know, the regulatory environment, they just take their time. And, you know, these people, you know, Ripple and Coinbase are trying to build a business, and they're just tied up in onerous paperwork from the SEC and other regulatory authorities in the US. It's a shocker. I mean, Ripple has made it clear in the past they will move, and certainly if they lose against the SEC, they will move out of the US as well, which will be terrible. Okay. Obviously, these are ongoing fights. I think even Justin Sun from Tron, who the SEC also, you know, is, you know, saying, you know, you've done the wrong thing, we're going to fine you. I mean, this Sun will also fight, and so will Binance, right? Binance has got, you know, some rulings down from the SEC as well. Changpeng Zhao will fight as well. The whole cryptocurrency market in the US is fighting against the SEC, and you know, it's going to be a disaster for the US, particularly with people getting out of US dollar. It'd be a disaster for US crypto clients because they won't be able to be serviced properly, because they won't be able to get on exchanges. It'll be a disaster for the whole US economic situation, because there'll be a drain on talent. People will move out. It's all very clear what's going to happen to the US, right? You know, again, the SEC is a law to themselves, and they're killing this incredible technology, cryptocurrency technology, which is bigger, as I've said before, than the internet, right? It does have a lot of significance for Ripple, because now people are fighting the SEC and they're going legal. The lawyers in the US are making a fortune. They're rubbing their hands in glee, but it's just tying up companies with the SEC and the lawyers for years on end, which is just a joke. You can't grow a business this way. It's impossible, right? Absolutely impossible. You know, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, there's stories out here about the cryptocurrency roller coaster with the SEC, and, you know, people just haven't got the time or the heart to keep fighting with these people. Just get out of the US and go to Europe, or you know, the Middle East, or wherever, or Asia, where it's much more pro cryptocurrencies. Seriously, you know, the environment in the US is a shocker, and, you know, the regulatory uncertainty. They're not listening. The SEC is not listening. They're so arrogant. They're not listening. I mean, honestly, not all cryptocurrency are securities. There's over 23,000 cryptocurrency coins and tokens, and a lot of them are used for utility within the network, the mainnet. You know, so, you know, again, just, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the SEC is out of their depth completely. Plus, you know, they did announce, you know, that they now regard other securities like Dash, Algorand, OMG Network, Monolith, Nader, and a few others as securities. I mean, all these companies, you know, and there's over 23,000 tokens and coins on the crypto market. They are all going to fight the SEC. I mean, you know, clearly they're all going to fight the SEC, and this thing is just a joke. Anyway, let's get off them for the minute. Ripple wants to expand 3.7 billion people through a multi-partnership in over 80 countries, right? In an effort to achieve carbon net zero in 2030, which I think is fantastic, okay? Ripple's payment network is literally carbon zero, right? They want to support people in the global world that are unbanked or underbanked, and have collaborations in terms of fintech, non-government organizations, universities and foundations, and social entrepreneurs to actually make the world better with Ripple's XRP Ledger, mainnet technology, which is incredible. And honestly, they're doing the right thing, right? You know, they did it for, they tweeted on World Day. And, you know, I think this is a great story for Ripple, okay? You know, their zero net carbon target for the environment is absolutely fantastic. But just a great story. Also, Mazzari founder weighs in on the crypto exchanges leaving the US. Even Mazzari could leave. You know, he said the discussions, you know, there's been with notable figures, expert analysis, and the US SEC is just ignoring it all, okay? He's supporting, Mazzari founder Ryan Selkis is supporting exactly what Ripple and Binance and Coinbase are doing, okay? And I agree with the guy totally agree with this guy. You know, cryptocurrencies are more valuable, faster growing, and with the US friendly, you know, stance, it would have been a different story. But the US is being so anti that, you know, again, it forces people to move out of the US, right? And people will fight the US. You know, we're seeing that cryptocurrency market is coming down with weakness because people are just so sick of this US crypto, you know, regularity, which has no, you know, supposed regularity, which has no clarity. Even Gemini are moving out of the US to set up another exchange, okay? And it's going to be a derivative exchange, and they're moving out of the US. And we've seen it, they're starting up hubs in India, Canada, and somewhere else in Asia, right? So this is just going on and on and on, right? Susan Friedman, the International Policy Council at Ripple, basically in recent weeks talked about the MiCA crypto legislation in the US. She said it's groundbreaking innovation bought by Europe. She has also repeatedly emphasized that it's not a lack of compliance in the US and recent, but a lack of clarity, right? No one's got any idea of what the US wants. And many people are deciding, you know, get out of the US and go to Europe, you know, with this new MiCA legislation that allows banks to hold 20% of their assets in cryptocurrency, okay? You know, and also a lot of the European countries are competing for the European hub of cryptocurrency technology. France is in there as well, competing for that as well, okay? So this is going to be very interesting to see where this goes, right? Consequently, with all this stuff, there is a delay in the Ripple suit against the SEC. And, you know, obviously it's a highly unpredictable, no one knows what judge and Lisa Torres is going to say in terms of the lawsuit. Gary Gensler is getting so much flack, and we just have to wait. There is a delay. People are saying that maybe it's May the 6th when we hear something. You know, actually that's wrong. Someone made a typo there, but, you know, May the 6th, 2023, and everyone's going to be waiting to see what happens. But it's a very difficult decision, clearly, for the judge. And, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, right? You know, and what she says. Wow, it's going to be very interesting going forward. I've got to tell you that. Coinbase and Gemini are looking to potentially buy Celsius network assets. But again, the SEC could knock that back like they knocked back initially Voyager and Binance buying Voyager's assets, right? Who knows what's going to happen there. As I said, France is, you know, wanting to get more into cryptocurrency. Crypto exchange Binance is back in Russia. They've lifted the restrictions on Russia users, and it doesn't surprise me simply because, as the previous story I spoke to you about, Russia has its own SWIFT settlement. It's setting up its own exchanges, its own payment system where cryptocurrency is allowed. Of course, Binance need to be in Russia, okay? It's very simple. Russia has a population of about 150 million people, and they are very pro cryptocurrency. So as a business, Binance needs to be in Russia, and it doesn't surprise me they quietly lifted the restrictions on Russian citizens and residents that was imposed a year ago because of US foreign policy. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Also, as I mentioned, Zimbabwe is looking to issue a gold-backed digital currency to save their local currency. Zimbabwe is a shocker. It used to be called Rhodesia under Ian Smith. It used to be the food bowl of Asia. Then Mugabe got in. It was an absolute disaster, okay? Disaster. So they're looking to work on a digital currency, which will be backed by gold. And I think that's a smart thing to do for them particularly. But also they want to get out of US dollar. So again, we see this, you know, de-dollarization, right? completely. As I said, France is very bullish about the metaverse industry, expects it to grow by 31.5%, 6.7 billion in 2023. So France is actually saying to exchanges, in France, please just, license yourself with us. We'll turn a blind eye to what happened in the past, but we want you to stay in France to create digital currency opportunities. As I said, China has big plans in terms of their central bank digital currency. They're going to use it for European trade, but they're also getting their people in China to use the digital currency, which is also set up, okay? Clearly, in terms of Hong Kong, they want to, obviously promote their digital currency yuan and not use US dollars like the Russians, okay? Big story there. Visa reveals an ambitious crypto product project roadmap. Visa are getting, bigger and bigger and bigger. They are the global leader in digital payment technology, and they believe that cryptocurrency technology is the way to go. And they're looking to hire software engineers all over the world to make this happen, right? They're putting their money where their mouth is. They believe the cryptocurrency technology is where to be, and they're completely right about this. Also, what else we got here? We've mentioned that one. Go forward. What else? Also, as I said, Jim, have a glass of water, guys and girls. Coffee's better. Crypto exchange Gemini to launch offshore derivatives platform. And, again, they want to look at Singapore, Hong Kong, India, Argentina, Brazil, or South America, amongst others, but will not cater to US, okay, which is unfortunate for the US client. But you can blame the SEC for that, okay? It's a shocker. You can blame the SEC. Plus, the MiCA regulation in Europe is great. VeChain is very compliant and already meets the MiCA requirements, which is fantastic. VeChain is an unbelievable cryptocurrency. It's incredible technology. It's supply chain management. So the European Parliament approved crypto markets in crypto assets called MiCA, and now people can actually seek licenses, to operate in the European bloc, and basically, be able to buy and sell digital currencies. It's a great story, okay? And VeChain is in compliant with those laws, which is fantastic for VeChain. It's one of the cheapest cryptocurrency coins out there with a great future as far as I'm concerned. We've also mentioned Visa, but they're also looking at the next generation of stable payments as well, so that, people can use the technology in terms of cryptocurrency technology. Also, there's a story here about Conflux, where they overtake Solana. We're in Conflux, and nothing would surprise me, because Conflux is basically a cryptocurrency asset that is accepted by the Chinese government, okay? And it has a huge future. And we invested in Conflux around 13 cents, but I think it's got a huge future. Any weakness in that, we're actually buying. But anyway, apart from that, what else we got? Oh, yes, decentralized GMX votes to use Chainlink. Again, Chainlink is another great cryptocurrency asset. We love it. Very cheap at the moment. Extremely cheap. So anyway, look, it's just about waiting and seeing what happens. Obviously, there's data out this week, but I'm still very bullish the cryptocurrency market. Short term, the next day or so, yes, we might see a weakness, but the next 2 to 3, 4 months outlook, I'm totally bullish. Standard Chartered came out with a prediction of Bitcoin. They said that Bitcoin could get to 100,000 by 2024. I believe it'll be earlier than that. It could even be by the end of the year. Anyway, guys and girls, that's enough for me. Thank you very much for listening. Talk to you soon. Have a great Anzac Day to all my lovely friends in Australia, my beautiful family. And, have a great day. Nice and sunny here at the moment in Europe. And I'll talk to you very soon. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you.